Good morning. My name is Onepeg MG, and this is the news. So obviously, we're going to go through all of the things that have happened in the last day or so regarding Tarkov and its development. But in addition to that, for the first time, I'm going to try my hand at reporting on something other than Tarkov. So if you guys want to stick around for that, it's going to be very, very short, really just more of an announcement. But I will save that for the end of the video so that you that want to see just Tarkov-related stuff don't have to waste your time. The development staff released some pictures, screen caps, and photographs of the office and things that they're working on in development, which we'll go through really, really briefly, as well as a bit of a developer update that has to do with some things that we all have had an overwhelming concern about for a pretty long time. It seems like it's a little bit more of the same, but I am glad that the development team is doing this like public reaching out. One of the largest complaints that they have been getting historically has been their lack of transparency or lack of communication with the rest of us. And the thing that we love to see most in order to be able to counteract that is to obviously be more communicative. So the more that they can do that, in my opinion, the better, right? This is interesting. So this looks like it's a remote controlled or remotely accessed camera, which I found to be pretty cool, although somebody's rocking out on Steam right now. Looks like we have some new renderings for what looks to be a Remington mod, or maybe it's the underbarrel grenade launcher. A lot of the different attire that they've obviously had in the game, an original Mortal Kombat arcade game. These are those new NVGs that we have had access to. Coffee cup. Looks like some customization for some of the clothing, gloves, and pants. We have some further customization, maybe some stock additions. You'll have to forgive me, guys. I'm not huge into like nerding out on attachments and you know, the firearms culture, so to speak. So if you guys know more about what exactly they're highlighting here, just leave me a comment. I realize this is for what looks to be like the Remington 700. Maybe it's something for stock modifiability and customization of the Remington, but maybe you guys would know. We have obviously a new rig. This is actually pretty cool. So this is a backpack like magazine for a machine gun. So this here actually curves down and would be the mag that feeds into the machine gun, and the backpack serves as the magazine. So this is very, very cool. Maybe we're going to be seeing some LMGs. Another rig. Looks like they're going to have another or possibly a modification to or a new riot helmet, this time with some padding around the outside of it. A blue area security key badge. So that's kind of cool. So we can see that they're obviously working on the security passes. Looks like smoke grenade renderings, just in case you guys want blue hair. You guys want blue hair, right? Moving on. Looks like we have some further renderings of some SKS variants, or maybe this is the SVD. I'm not really sure. So I know what this is. This is a P90, and I love the fact that they're adding this gun, because the P90 is super cool. It's super compact. It's lightweight, and they've got these really cool top-loaded flat magazines that slide in underneath this mount here, and then would attach in the back, and then the mag is fed through that way. So really cool gun system, and I'm super glad to see that this is almost completed, looks like. So very cool stuff. So that's what I have for, I guess, media that was released, visual media anyway. Now the other piece obviously is the Escape from Tarkov release that they made, what looks like to be at least my time this morning while I was asleep, to talk to the community about what is going on. So we're just going to pull that up, if that's okay with you guys, and we'll read through it real quick. Hello, people. Glad to see everybody in good mood, or not. Want to tell you about what's going on in the studio right now. So as you know, we are working on the next intermediate patches with fixes and optimizations, mostly. Now, they did say that they were going to be kind of alternating between content stuff and optimizations of the game from patch to patch, which is good that they're sticking onto that track. So here is some main tasks we're working on. Freezes and stuttering, as always. Performance issues, as always. Already fixed several issues which cause stuttering and freezes. Also optimizing optic scopes, picture-in-picture, grasped rendering, applying overall map optimizations, and so on. So we know that obviously one of the larger issues that came and still plagues this game is when you go to use a scope and you zoom in on a far out location, it has to render whatever it is that you're looking at, because that's how Unity works. It's been a problem that has plagued just about every Unity game that has ever existed. I'm hopeful that they'll be able to figure out what's going on with this a little bit better so that we don't all need $3,000+ PCs in order to be able to keep those like rendering spikes from occurring. Fixing errors related to server performance, to decrease desyncs and lag, also door syncs, raid start lag, server crashes being addressed. We will try to fix as much as possible. Improved vertical sound positioning, so that's a huge one. Right now, we want to make some changes to get rid of these false sounds through feet-thick concrete and so on. This will improve overall positioning by clearing the sound scene. After this, we plan to implement new from-scratch sound system. So, regarding this, I'm a bit of a sound nerd, right? Everybody that has known me for as long as I have been doing this content stuff knows that, like, audio and music and that kind of stuff is something that I really, really am into and really, really enjoy. Historically, what I have seen from game developers when it comes to soundscape level stuff and positional audio, rebuilding this from the ground up, if that's really what they're talking about doing, may not necessarily have to be something that drastic unless, of course, the code is really, really wonky. I'd prefer to just see them place, you know, a couple of ears, quote unquote, on the, you know, even just the frame of vision of players, so that if you turn your head, there's your positional audio. If I turn my head upward toward the ceiling, or if I turn my head downward toward the floor, it should amplify or muffle the sounds of what it is that I am essentially looking at. The easiest way to implement directional audio is just to either amplify or muffle sound depending on the direction that the character is looking. Of course, they obviously have to get the levels right depending on distance and all of those other factors. For any of you that are game developers, I don't want to come out and say like, oh, this should be easy, right? Like, I realize that it is much, much more complicated than me like just trying to truncate this into a couple of sound bites. But from a generalistic standpoint, that's what I'm speaking of. So, you know, forgive me for trying to oversimplify what is more than likely a very difficult task in implementation. Moving on. Penetration issues. Already fixed glass penetration and deviation issues on maps. Also grenade collision issues with glass. So it looks like in whatever dev build that they're on right now, they fixed the issues where, like, when you go to throw a grenade through a window, it like hits the window and bounces straight up, or would even come back at you. Lots of gameplay related bug fixes. For example, grenade soft lock bug. That's like you would throw a grenade and all of a sudden your weapon would disappear. Reticle reset after grenade throw bug, where people go to like use your scope and then switch to your secondary optic for close range fire. You throw a grenade and then all of a sudden you're back to your scope again. Possessed scavs, tons of AI fixes operating with doors, for example. Ton of location fixes like collision, visual issues, spawns, interface fixes, and optimizations. Small quality of life additions and balancing changes. Ability to quick cancel an offer in the flea market. Out of stock labels on items that are out of stock, which is something that we all requested. More pop-up warnings in the flea market, etc. So one of the things that people were requesting was, like in EVE Online, which Nikita is a huge fan of their economic system, if you are listing an item for, say, a 300,000% markup above whatever it is currently listed for on average in the market, there would be a pop-up window that would warn you, are you sure that you want to do this? One of the most common things that we see now with the flea market, and there's been some really funny memes with guys like War Run, etc., where they're trying to list, say, 2,000 rounds of a certain type of ammunition, and they want to sell it all at once for 1,000,000 rubles. and accidentally they end up listing 2,000 rounds of ammunition for 1,000,000 rubles apiece, and their transaction cost was, 6 or 9 million rubles just to list all of that ammo at that price. Obviously, that's counterintuitive and not something that people would want to do, but it happens to people on a pretty regular basis if they're not paying attention to clicking that little checkbox. So this would obviously potentially fix most of that fat fingering, if you will. The main focus is on freezes, stuttering, and performance issues, so if you want to help, send bug reports if you encounter anything of these problems. Also, we are constantly modifying anti-cheat to keep the game fair, constantly every single day. Of course, some of us continue to make content. Right now, the art department is working on the military base location called Reserve. R-E-Z-E-R-V. That's cute. It's a special reserve base with supplies, was protected by Russian military forces. There will be more info about this location later. We will implement cool new mechanics on it. Also, the labs is being worked on too. Weapon department working on new guns, P90, which we just saw. Animation department working on new character animations. Also in point 1.2, there will be weapon builds feature, storing and quick gun assembling. So that's cool. So that means you'll be able to have your favorite custom build of an M4. Hopefully they'll have like a quick buy feature. It sounds like at the very least, if you have all the items to assemble it in your inventory, you can like hit go and it will pre-assemble the gun for your favorite quote-unquote loadout, and that way you don't have to spend all that time assembling all of the little parts and pieces yourself. Now, obviously, you'll still be able to do that if that's like your thing, but for some of us that prefer to not have to spend all that time doing it, it's kind of nice to have that implemented. The last piece of this has to do with when. So when? We plan to start to upload these intermediate updates. Yes, it will be better to have several fix updates to test pretty soon. Next week, most likely. So it looks like we're getting an intermediate patch next week. Of course, I missed something. Don't think that if I missed what I said earlier, it will not be in the game. Much love, you are the best. And as I was making this upload, the devs made a final release at kind of the 11th hour here that says 762 by 51, M61, M62, M80, 76254R7N1, 76254R LPSGZH, and SNB have all had their damage increased by 10. Interesting. So it looks like it'll be next week. Now, my time, that means that they prefer to release patches on Wednesday. So I would say if we're talking Eastern Standard Time or GMT -5, for those of you that want some point of reference, we're looking at January 30th. Wednesday, January 30th would be approximately when they plan on releasing that patch. So for those of you in Australia or further out in the future, I guess you would be looking at the 31st of January. So that's what I have for Tarkov. Now, on to the other thing that I'm looking at reporting on. So for now, what it appears that I'm going to be doing is focusing on games that are relatively close to the finalization of their development cycle, insofar as the development teams themselves are talking about it. In this case, since I have access to it for today, and today marks the beginning of it, I'm going to be looking into the Anthem demo. So this is going to be a bit more of an announcement that I'm going to be focusing on that demo a little bit, checking out the ins and outs of it, giving you guys an idea of what I think of it and why I think the things that I do. But it stands to serve that a little bit of background-wise, EA, which, all right, I get it. I get it, guys. It's EA. I understand. But anyway, looks like EA is using this to enter into the gun RPG-esque or MMORPG-esque genre that we've come to see from games like The Division and obviously Destiny. This looks like to be something akin to a Destiny clone, although I don't want to call it a Destiny clone for fear that the fanboys out there end up kind of like losing their minds over me calling it that. But I want to get into it. I quite honestly have not looked into this game very much at all, but I was offered the ability to be able to play the demo through a community member and a good friend, so I want to at least do them the service of diving into it. I'll probably be doing most of that live today, so I want to get into there and pick it apart, see what I think of it. It looks like it's going live in about 2 hours from the point in time that I upload this. So, yeah, that's what I got, guys. Thank you so much for your time. I really, really, really appreciate all the love that you guys have shown me. Hopefully, me diving into Anthem will be something that the viewership wants to see. If not, tell me why. And, yeah, thank you guys so much. We'll see you soon. Bye.